Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. Tonight we are recapping the week's nerdy news from quitting your high-profile animation job to getting hired as Superman and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me as always, Mr. Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, on top of those two things, more people that don't currently have a job because they're, sitting out on account of really shitty conditions.
Yeah, a bit of a strike update for you. Strike watch still going on. We no change in the writer's strike whatsoever, but the Screen Actors Guild has until June 30th, which is this Friday, to reach a deal, or else they will also be on strike. And I read conflicting things within the last 24 hours. I read something saying, I didn't even read the actual report. I just saw somebody retweeting something saying, this report makes it seem like they are going to reach a deal, and this is why this is bad for, writers and whatever. And then I also read, I think it was Jeff Snyder actually said something about how it's looking like he's hearing that SAG is not going to reach a deal, and that they will be striking, and that the writer's strike, at least, is going to be going through October at the minimum.
Oh.
Yeah. But again, that's just like, I think he described that as being in the wind. That's like what he's hearing out there. Nothing definite. But, again, certainly, as we've said many times before, if the Screen Actors Guild does decide to go on strike, nothing's going to be happening. You and I are going to have to figure out something else to talk about for a while. There's not going to be a whole lot of announcements happening.
Seriously.
I think. Yeah. But speaking of people working under terrible conditions, this is a big bummer of a story for fans of a little movie called Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. We're not going to be giving out spoilers for this movie, so if you haven't seen it, you're good to go still. But an article from vulture.com this week had 4 animators describing that the working conditions on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse were unsustainable and toxic. Apparently it was a terrible working environment. These conditions compelled about 100 artists to quit the movie before it was done throughout the time.
How?
Yeah. A lot of the blame's falling
Marvel
on...
look like saints.
Yeah, I know, dude. Yeah, 100 people. How do you lose 100 people throughout the process and think that, I don't know. A lot of the blame in this article at least seemed to fall on producer Phil Lord's management style. Apparently, animation takes a long time. There's, storyboard art, there's pre-conceptualization, pre-visualization stages, there's stages without detail, there's different levels of completion until you get all the way through like finalized work. Apparently, producer Phil Lord preferred to edit fully rendered completed work instead of working off of conceptual mock-ups or like 3D visuals, early 3D visuals. So he would inevitably ask for changes to be made for fully completed work. This happened sometimes up to 5 times in the same scene. He would have animators start basically, if you're handing someone a fully rendered piece of animation and they're saying change it, you have to start from absolute scratch in order to change that, making it much harder on these animators. These conditions caused animators to work 11-hour days, 7 days a week for more than a year to make up for time lost during the pandemic, and also during just kind of like mismanagement of the work that was being farmed out and done. Sony producer, Spider-Man producer Amy Pascal gave a very glib and out of touch quote for this article, saying, "Hey, if the story isn't right, we have to keep going until it is. Welcome to making a movie."
Not great.
It's not great, but she's not wrong.
Oh no,
she's not wrong.
Like, contact is a thing?
Yeah. Yes. But the problem here is that TAG, which literally stands for the Animation Guild, is a union but it's not formally recognized as a union, I guess, by the studio. So it doesn't have like the bargaining power that the WGA has, or SAG-AFTRA has, or the DGA, Directors Guild, has. So there's no like union body that is putting protections in place for conditions like this, or against conditions like this for those animators. And they're lobbying, but they just don't have the power that a fully recognized union has. And I don't know much about unions. I sometimes am barely holding on when you and I are talking about the strike here, but and this is one of those situations. So I don't fully understand this. I don't know if they need more members or they just need more like pull somehow. But like, yeah, like, you know, hearing Phil Lord work like that, or hearing Amy Pascal talk like that, that sounds shitty, and it is. But also at the same time, there's nothing that's telling them that they can't do this, that they can't there's nothing against,
Right.
you know, it's like Airbud rules. There's nothing in the rule book that says I can't make you
Jesus.
it says a dog can't play basketball, and there's nothing in the rule that says I can't make for 11 hours for 7 days a week. You know what I mean?
So for anyone who didn't listen to our Secret Invasion recap that we just did, within the last running 10 minutes, we've had an Airbud and Whose Line Is It Anyway reference.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We're doing great, folks. We're doing great.
The Secret Invasion episode is a little tangenty right now.
Yeah.
We talk about Star Wars Rebels for a while. We talk about,
you know,
the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe.
If we have anyone that listens to us and does not expect tangents, they're probably, it's the first time they're listening to us.
Yeah, yes. Yes, for sure. A couple quotes from this article. Somebody said, one of the animators said, the whole experience felt like one step forward, 2 steps back, until we were forced to sprint to make up ground in the last few months. There are sequences that we started in 2021 that we just finished in May. This production has been death by 1,000 paper cuts. Wow.
That's just, you know, there's a whole damning by faint praise thing. That's just damning. There's no faint praise. It's just damning.
Yeah. It took 2 years to finish like sequences. That's insane. That's wild. And then it made me think of, I don't think that we talked about this. Maybe we did on the podcast, but it was reported that this is a very light spoiler for Across the Spider-Verse. There is a sequence
we actually had this sent to us by a listener on Twitter,
Really?
Insomniac Movie Night. I just, funnily enough, I didn't realize it was in the show notes and just responded to them on Twitter.
Oh, wow, the Lego thing?
Yeah.
Oh, hilarious.
So straight out of Insomniac Movie Night on Twitter.
Thank you, Insomniac Movie Night.
Yeah.
When they released the first trailer for this movie, Across the Spider-Verse, maybe like a week later or 2 weeks later or something, somebody had redone the entire trailer in stop motion Lego animation, and that kind of blew up that someone had done that. And turned out it was this 14-year-old kid that did that. And the like Phil Lord and Chris Miller, producers of the Across Spider-Verse movie, were so impressed by that they hired him. And there is a short Lego sequence in Across the Spider-Verse that was done by this 14-year-old kid that
Preston
did this
Mutango.
trailer. Yes. That's super cool on its own. Super cool. But then think about, when did they release the first trailer to this movie? Like less than a year ago? So that means that Lego sequence maybe wasn't even conceived of until after they released the first trailer for this movie. So that's like, when they say that they just finished shots in May, that is in line with that story of hiring a 14-year-old kid for a sequence in this film after you released the first trailer for this movie. Just seems crazy.
Well, and they're all in that boat. Like we were talking about Marvel, how half the time their final stuff isn't even written until they're midway through shooting.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like,
it's been a big problem.
How are all these huge budget films like going to film without a completed script? Or
Yeah, and that makes me like, I guess I should read more about the 14-year-old Lego kid thing, or if Insomniac has any other data for us, I mean, info for us, let us know. But like, did they see that Lego trailer and say, "Oh, we have to somehow squeeze this into the movie," and then make animators redo the scenes on either side? Or did they have a scene that wasn't working and they replaced it with a Lego thing? Like, how did that Lego thing come on so late in the game
Right.
and fit seamlessly into the movie? And how much of a headache was that for all the other animators that had the scenes on either side?
Apparently, it took about 150 people to do it.
Yeah, apparently. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. Another quote regarding Beyond the Spider-Verse, which was announced to come out on March, I think 29th, 2024. So we're all excited. It was less than a year away. We have to wait to figure out what happens at the end, from the end of the cliffhanger ending of Across the Spider-Verse. And this anonymous animator told Vulture regarding the release date of Beyond the Spider-Verse. They said, "I've heard people say, oh, they probably worked on it at the same time. There's no way that movie's coming out then. There's been progress on the pre-production side of things, but as far as the production side goes, only progress that's been made on the third one is any exploration or tests that were done before the movie was split into two parts. Everyone's been fully focused on Across the Spider-Verse and barely crossing the finish line. And now it's like, oh yeah, we have to do another one." So I guess be prepared. According to this, be prepared for Beyond the Spider-Verse to be pushed.
Mm-hmm.
And that lines up with Haley Steinfeld, in doing promotion for Across the Spider-Verse, was asked if she'd already recorded anything for Beyond the Spider-Verse. She said no.
Right.
And
which we all thought was like very confusing.
I know. I was like, well, maybe they just, because I remember that initially they didn't announce two sequels. They announced just a sequel, and then they said this is going to be two. We're splitting it into two parts. So I was like, oh, maybe everything she recorded that has just been split into the two movies. So maybe she like doesn't think she recorded for number 3, but she recorded so much for number 2, and they, I don't know. I was giving her the benefit of the doubt, but maybe not. Now that I'm reading this article, maybe not. Maybe they haven't recording voices, and if that's the case, it's definitely not coming out in March of 2024. And that's shitty. This is just like, I loved Across the Spider-Verse. I thought it was a great movie, and I don't want to take anything away from the final product, but it's kind of hard. It's just like the bloom coming off the rose a little bit for Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah. Like, oh, that isn't that pyramid beautiful, but oh, it was made by tortured, enslaved people. Right. Like, oh, okay, it takes a little bit away from it. Like, oh, Across Spider-Verse is a great movie, but people made it, hated doing it, and was,
yeah, nobody's hanging their head on that. Like, none of the animators, at least.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a bummer. And all of this, and still, working 11-hour days, 7 days a week. It also came out this week that there apparently are 2 different versions of Across the Spider-Verse in theaters right now.
Yep.
And the differences aren't major. There's no plot twist. It just seems like a little bit of dialogue, slight dialogue changes or slight animation differences.
Yeah, nothing substantive to the plot or anything like that. It's all just Easter eggs.
Right. Yeah, just little gags or whatever. But like all this specification, you're making people work for 11-hour days, 7 days a week, and then you just still can't make up your mind, and just to the point where you release 2 different versions. Like, what is I guess I don't get what the point of releasing 2 different versions of the movie is if they're not like consequential changes, It's not Clue, where they're releasing different with like 3 different endings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it had a different ending, then that makes sense. But if you're just going to say like, oh, the Spot says this over here, and he says this slightly different line over here, why? Just pick one.
I don't know.
I don't know. I read that and I was like, there's 2 different ones. And I kind of read through some of the differences. Like, so what? Like, this isn't interesting. It just seems like a waste of people's time. I don't know. Oh my God, I don't know. So sorry for all you animators on Across the Spider-Verse for all your hardship. You did a great job, though, because you made a great movie. But I'm very sorry that it was a terrible time.
Yeah. That's, they're talking about another, working on the sequel to it. But, one thing that is probably not going to see the light of the day in production and or anything else, a movie we were very confused when they announced.
Tell me
El
about it.
Muerto.
El Muerto.
Yeah.
Steve, tell the people what happened with El Muerto this week.
Well, it's no longer on Sony's release schedule, which I guess any longtime listeners will be, confident in the fact that we didn't even think it should have been on the release schedule in the first place.
Nope.
So it is now officially off of it, and I guess a couple days after that announcement was made, Bad Bunny also was removed from the project.
I think he left.
Or
the article I read said that he left.
That works.
Sony is saying
that makes
Sony
sense.
is saying that the role will be recast, which I just think is a total lie. I think that's like a saving face statement, and they're just gonna let everybody forget that this movie was ever gonna be made.
Yeah, I'm
And
pretty
we
sure
will,
everything they've
because
done
no
on
one
this will go straight to a tax write-off and call it a day.
Yeah. Do you think this has anything to do with the reaction to the Kraven the Hunter trailer that came out last week?
That couldn't have helped it?
Couldn't help it.
Was El Muerto going to be one of the Sinister Six? Like, what was going on here? Like, we still don't know. We can't even wrap our heads around what was happening with this movie in the first place.
I mean, because we've got Venom.
Yep.
Venom 2 and Morbius the Living Vampire.
And
now,
Kraven coming out next month.
Next month? I think it's October. I think Kraven's fall.
Oh,
I think Kraven's
I was thinking
fall.
it was August.
Well,
Let's
next
find
month
out.
is July, Steve.
Okay, it's June 26th, Mike. Kraven is coming out in October. You're right. Okay.
I was like, I gotta go see another movie this summer. I'm already going to see a million movies.
Were you going to actually go see Kraven? Did it look bad enough that you thought you had to go see it?
I don't know. I mean, I guess there's more of a chance that I'll see it in October than me seeing it in the summer when I'm already going to a million movies.
Right.
So we'll have to see. But we've got Venom. We've got Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, and we've got Morbius the Living Vampire. 2 of those made some money. Venom made a bunch of money. Let There Be Carnage made some money. Morbius made less money. Considerably less money. But none of those movies were really critically well received.
Yeah.
At all. So you got Sony putting out 3 non-Spider-Man Spider-Man movies. And then you got the trailer for Kraven comes out, which is another non-Spider-Man Spider-Man movie. Most of the reaction to it is that this looks terrible and dumb and stupid. And then they remove El Muerto from the calendar.
Yeah.
I know, they're like, hey, we made 3 bad movies. We're going to make a 4th bad one. We should stop making these. We should stop throwing a ton of money into movies that people don't want. Like, are they finally learning their lesson? Is Kraven going to be terrible? Is Madam Web going to be so terrible that they're just going to be the last 2? And
cut the losses?
Yeah.
Well,
Madam Web has the most potential, I think, at this point. Because from what we've heard, it seems just so far out there that I think it has a better chance of catching people.
Yeah.
You know, in a way, like Kraven, like, sure, he's like a animal guy, but it's still just like it seems formulaic and dumb.
Oh, God.
Whereas Madam Web seems so strange and out there and weird and also female driven, that could catch some people in a way that, Venom 3 probably won't.
I forgot there was a Silk TV series too.
Oh yeah. That could be good.
That could be
good.
We've seen Sony strike lightning in a bottle a couple times.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're only animated.
Yeah.
So
I think I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry. Did you have like
I don't know. I had nothing profound.
Okay. I think I said this to you after we stopped recording last time because we were kind of still talking about Spider-Man after we stopped. And I said, it's if you think about it, I mean, it's obvious and it's a mystery at the same time. Why Sony keeps making Spider-Man movies when most of them aren't seen as being very good, really.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot that are debatable, but there's some that are not, and they're just straight up bad. But you got like the Spider-Verse movies. You got like the first two Sam Raimi ones at least. People, a lot of people love No Way Home, and people love Homecoming. But like everything else, and even No Way Home is debatable because I don't love No Way Home.
Right.
And I'm sure there's people out there that don't love Spider-Man 2. I'm sure there are crazy weirdo wackos out there that don't love one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. But everything else is highly debatable to agreed upon to be bad.
Right.
So
I mean, even the Garfield duology was
even the Garfield movies. Yeah,
they're decent enough.
They're decent, but like there's people that love those movies. There's people that hate them.
Yeah.
I think those fall into the debatable range to me. So like
they might be even
like
more.
If you look at yeah. But if you look at this series of like films, I mean, they change continuities and actors and whatever.
Right.
But like you look at this Spider-Man series of films, there's more misses than there are hits. Critically.
If you're looking at
it's just the fact that
the Sony Spider-Man universe, then yes.
Oh, especially if you just look at the Sony ones. But I'm talking Disney all over the place. Because like Far From Home, I don't think is that great of a Spider-Man movie.
No, that's fine.
So for me, there's definitely more hits than misses. Financially, they score every time. And obviously that's the reason they keep making them, because every Spider-Man movie makes $1 billion.
Morbius did not. That was the worst superhero drop ever.
Yeah.
73.8% drop weekend to weekend.
Yikes.
Unfortunately, followed very closely in second place by a movie both of us enjoyed, The Flash.
Yeah. I knew you were going to bring that up somehow. Yeah.
I mean, you could not. Like,
wild.
How that dropped off as bad as it is, I don't know.
You're right. I don't understand that. Like, we talked about in our review, how this movie had a lot going against it.
Yeah.
But it still is a pretty good movie.
Well,
like, I loved it, and I know people don't, but like, the most people I've seen it, but I haven't seen many people being like, this is dog shit terrible.
No, most people
are like,
a good number of people were in the same boat as I was, where it was like, okay, it was a fine popcorn movie.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I probably won't rewatch. Like, if I I'll rewatch it once, and it may not hold up at all. But my initial viewing, I had fun.
Yeah. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I've like most people I've seen have probably been like, yeah, it was pretty good. That's like most of what I saw. But even with like, I guess I just don't know. I don't know if it's like the people that hate it bark the loudest, or guilty dogs bark the loudest or whatever. So it's like they're creating the biggest anti-word of mouth thing about it, and people aren't going, or just it's
this was far from Morbius scale. Like, this should not be in the same conversation as Morbius.
It really shouldn't. Yeah, it's like shocking. And so like Warner Brothers has to be like, what conversation is James Gunn having to have on the phone right now? It's not his fault. He had nothing to do with the Flash.
No, but I think part of it may be because of that. Like, DC has made this whole hog like change in their structure and saying, we're going with Gunn and going with and Safran and this whole thing moving forward. And
so this movie doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter, and they're going to run into the same thing with Aquaman, and like,
I mean, I think the other unfortunate casualty of this is going to be Blue Beetle, which again from that trailer looks like a pretty good movie, and James Gunn has said this is going to be the first character that definitely sticks around for the DCU, and it's not connected. Like, literally, they're saying it's not connected to anything else. And if I was them, that would be the first line out of everybody that's doing promotion for this move for Blue Beetle is it's not connected to any other thing. It's not connected to Flash. It's not connected to Batman versus Superman. It's not connected to Justice League. It's not connected to Wonder Woman, even like the ones you like. It's not connected to any of them. because they can still put out a movie like The Batman that's not connected to anything, and it still works, you know. And now, I mean, it's going to become its own, like, you know, pocket universe thing.
Right.
But like, it's not necessarily the DC brand. It's just this version of the DC universe that I think people are just tired of in general. And it's because of all the mismanagement and terrible decisions that they made for years and years and years, shooting themselves in the foot time after time.
Right. And
even
now,
when you get a good movie like The Flash that, you know, controversies aside, I don't think deserves as much hate as it is getting.
right.
Especially when there's movies out there like Thor: Love and Thunder. It's just really shitty that it's like kneecapping a pretty great movie, The Flash, that they're still being haunted by their past decisions.
Right. Like I said last
Warner
week,
Brothers.
it's not cinema. Like, we're not winning Oscars with this thing, but it's a fun movie. It's well worth seeing.
Yeah, you
I
even
know
said in
our
our
5
review, you
people
said it's
that listen are not going to change the box
Yeah,
office
no.
drop, but
no. Sorry, it's just like I don't need everyone to love the same movies that I love.
No.
Like, I don't care if someone hated this movie, like, that's fine. Like, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not. I feel I'm like, I went on a bit of a rant there, and I'm not doing that because I want more people to like this movie. It's just it's just so crazy to me that it's getting this much hate,
right.
or like this much of a drop off. It's just
Well,
falling so fast.
for a
It just
movie
seems
that-
crazy to me.
For a
I don't
movie that
understand.
wasn't critically panned or anything, and it wasn't.
Right.
You know, I don't know
It
if it
doesn't make
relies
sense.
too much on nostalgia and like it's hitting us right because that was our Batman
Maybe.
and that sort of thing.
I was gonna say, yeah, the nostalgia is the return of Keaton's Batman, which is one of the, you know, a very acclaimed performance and series
but
of
do
duology of films.
do any of the people younger than us, which are a lot of the people spending money at movie theaters,
Yeah.
give two flying shits about Keaton as Batman?
You know what? Maybe not. That could be it.
Like, for us, that hits us right in the feels.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
And I think I talked about this personally, how I feel, but maybe the audience is the same way. I'm getting sick of like multiverse stories, and I just want like a
Yeah.
new story. And I don't need you to pull the person that played the character 40 years ago back for a give me a cameo, sure, fine, but like, I don't need, like, I'm done. And I worry for for my opinion of the MCU moving forward, because they are still entrenched in this multiverse saga that now isn't going to end until 2027. So if partial failing of the Flash at the box office has anything to do with people being sick of multiverse stories, then the MCU is in trouble unless they do massive rewrites of all their stuff.
well, I mean,
But honestly, I think it's more so that they're sick of anything connected to the Snyderverse, the DC EU, Zack Snyder stuff, which pains me to say. You know, and when I said what kind of calls James Gunn having with Dave Zaslav, I just kind of meant, you know, I feel like the pressure is now being even, you know, increasing even more on Superman Legacy.
yeah.
And what James Gunn and Peter Safran are going to do, because if that movie comes out and doesn't make $1 billion, I can see Zaslav overreacting and just being like, okay, no, we're done.
Oh,
This
100%.
isn't, you know, selling DC or something, you know.
And there will be
I
more to
would-
come on Spider-Man Legacy. No, different movie. Although I would like that movie. Superman Legacy later.
Yeah, very soon, actually. But anyway, yes.
Now that we've
Sony's
taken
not
our
making El Muerto
very
anymore.
wide detour from Sony's El Muerto.
Huge wide detail. I thought there was something else I was going to say about Flash and or Blue Beetle.
I don't know,
I don't
but I
remember.
am intrigued by Blue
Oh,
Beetle.
I was just going to say, like, I think as much as I hate saying this, I feel like the best surefire thing, if they want to avoid any kind of people making connections to stuff that they're sick of, aka the Zack Snyder films.
Yep.
I think your reboot has to be total.
Yeah.
And like, even things that I love, like Peacemaker, maybe you should drop season 2. Maybe you should I hate saying this. Maybe you should not let Margot Robbie continue as Harley Quinn, or um, Octavia Spencer come back as Amanda Waller. You know, like those are like
Yeah.
great castings, and they're so great. But if people are gonna be if people don't like Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn just because the first time they saw her was in Suicide Squad, the David Ayer one, that is a terrible, terrible movie.
Not the Suicide Squad.
Not the Suicide Squad, that's great, and not Birds of Prey, that's also great. Like, if that's the connection they make with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, oh yeah, she was in that dog shit one that came out in 2017 or whatever, then that's not going to work for him. That's not going to work. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I was like, yeah, like you said, buddy, that was a huge rant, huge left turn.
It just, took us a while to get there. We got there.
Yeah, we got there. Last thing, and this is a great segue from our talking about Marvel and Disney, even though we spent a long time just talking about DC just now, into our main DC section. Turns out most major studios will be skipping San Diego Comic-Con 2023 this year, something that I'm not surprised by whatsoever. Steve, you and I have been talking about for weeks in regards to the writer's strike, how this is going to affect a lot of stuff, but specifically events like San Diego Comic-Con are going to be radically different.
Yeah.
And here we are, where the following studios will not be at San Diego Comic-Con this year: Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Netflix, HBO, Sony, and Universal have all already said that they will be sitting it out this year.
It's just about all of them there, Mike.
Just about all of them, with the exception of Paramount, Amazon, NBC, which is a network, not really a studio, and DC Films.
Yep.
So the article that I read from Variety
DC Films,
said
we're only including them in this list of still being there solely because they broke out Marvel from the Disney umbrella, because HBO was mentioned in people skipping.
Right. I did find a specific article that mentioned DC Films specifically as being on this list of kind of taking like a wait and see approach, like what's going to happen with Screen Actors Guild, what's going to happen with everything else. Like Paramount, Amazon, NBC, and DC all seem to be still on board for now, but that is going to be it's not going to be, I mean, if DC is still there, I feel like at this point, if all these other studios have already vacated, any studio that actually goes is going to own the news cycle that week, unless Marvel just decides to drop stuff on their own, which they definitely could do, I guess.
Yeah, do their own, random.
The Comic-Con news cycle could be literally all about Mission Impossible 7 and 8 or whatever, if Paramount's there or whatever. So we'll see. I'm sure there'll still be plenty of news that comes out of Comic-Con that we'll be talking about in a couple of weeks.
Strange New World Season 3 and Mission Impossible.
Yeah, Star Trek and Tom Cruise. But if DC is there at San Diego Comic-Con, what could they be possibly talking about? Well, they could possibly be talking about the casting for Superman Legacy. It's being reported that the casting for Clark Kent, Kal-El, Superman, and Lois Lane could be decided as early as next week. DC is hoping to announce this casting at San Diego Comic-Con if, that is a big if, that they can keep it a secret that long. I think this is like some of the hottest, most anticipated, one of the most hottest and most anticipated announcements in Hollywood right now. So there's going to be a lot of people trying to figure this out. A lot of people leak stuff.
It's all about the scoopers, Mike. It's all about the scoopers.
It is all about the scoopers. But remember when the day that James Gunn, when they announced the half of the slate for his DCU?
Yep.
And it was like a full 24 hours that he had told news outlets, and not one thing leaked before like the actual time. So I don't know, maybe they've figured out a way to keep leaks from happening. I hope so, because I would love to not know until they announce it. Comic-Con. I would love them to be able to pull that off. As a DC fan, that would be a cool moment.
Right. Amazon, what are we looking for? We're looking for Invincible and Rings of Power, and anything else? Maybe The Boys?
Yeah, could be The Boys for sure. Yeah, because I don't have anything. I mean, I think anything else that's on nerd related that's on Amazon. But no, yeah.
Peacock,
I mean,
who
Netflix has
knows?
like Stranger Things and stuff too, so
Oh,
Netflix
yeah.
has plenty of
Yeah.
stuff that they could be talking about.
Sweet Tooth, Stranger Things.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't watched Sweet Tooth yet. We
I
gotta
still
get on
haven't
that.
either. NBC,
I
who
watched
the
season
hell
1.
knows?
Yeah, I don't know what NBC would do. I mean, networks are there to just be a part of the machine, even if
Well,
they don't have big announcements.
yeah, I
Not
mean,
everyone's in Hall H.
I'm thinking like Paramount's basically CBS, so like
Yeah,
NBC, whatever they're dropping on Peacock type thing.
yeah, for sure.
Because what they're announcing at
Um,
SDCC is not going to be main NBC fodder.
True. And it's not even really that. Like Marvel has skipped Hall H before. Marvel has skipped
Yeah.
Comic-Con before. And so is Warner Brothers, I believe. So is DC. So it's not uncommon but it's uncommon for this many to do so. So that's what is making it weird.
Yeah.
But again, I would love for DC to be able to pull off this announcement. However, if the Screen Actors Guild is on strike, then whoever is cast as Superman and Lois will not be in attendance because they won't be able to promote anything that they're doing, which will,
Makes it a little
take
tough.
it, lessen it a little bit. Yeah. But Steve, as you and I
Jesus,
talked
I didn't
about
even
this,
think about that. If SAG actually goes, then Comic-Con might as well just shut down.
well, or it could just be about comics again.
Well, I would love that, and you would love that, but
Yeah.
the masses that attend that gathering would probably it's evolved well beyond its roots at this point.
I know. I feel like, this probably has, you know what, Steve? This probably has the potential to be a very low attended
Yeah.
Comic-Con, which means nobody's like you and me could probably get tickets and a hotel room easier than normal.
Sure. Yeah, how many people do you think are buying tickets to SCCC and going to flip through long boxes?
I don't know, but I'm thinking maybe you and I should.
Okay. Plane ticket San
All right.
Diego.
I guess we're
Hey,
going.
my buddy lives there. We've got a room. We're good to go.
Oh, what? Yeah, we're going then. We're going.
Multiverse Report on site at San Diego Comic-Con.
Dude, that'd be so cool. It would be far and away our highest, most listened to episode. And then we just go right back down. Yeah. Like, oh, wait, they don't report from San Diego Comic-Con all the time?
Yeah.
No?
This isn't an every year occurrence? Oh, crap.
This isn't every day? Oh. Anyway, back to Superman casting. The Hollywood Reporter is saying that James Gunn is, as Steve, as you and I were talking about last time we were talking about potential actors for Superman and Lois, he's looking at pairs. Like, if it's Nicholas Hoult as Superman, it's going to be Rachel Brosnahan as Lois. Like, he's already paired off.
I thought you were
people
discussing
like
the
that.
fruit at first, and I was very confused.
Yeah, James Gunn talking about pairs.
Yeah,
his
it'll be a
favorite fruit.
Bartlett pear for Superman, and
Yep,
that's the only pair I know, so Lois doesn't get a pair.
Yeah, right. Some other kind of pair. And also they're saying that once those main two roles are cast, Gunn wants to move swiftly to confirm the next wave, including characters like Lex Luthor. Currently being rumored for Lex Luthor are both Alexander Skarsgård and Bill Skarsgård.
Why not
Weird.
Stellan too? What the hell? Just
Why not?
Put the whole
Throw 'em
family
all
in
there. I guess we should say that take this all with a grain of salt, because as we reported last week, James Gunn appeared on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast and said that there are names out there that are being rumored as being in the in talks or in the running that is just completely false. So this Skarsgård stuff could be false. Nicholas Hoult may not be in the running still. Like who knows? Who knows what's real and what's not? As he's said a million times, don't trust anything until it comes from my mouth or Peter's mouth. So grain of salt. But something that James Gunn has confirmed on his social medias this week is that nobody has been cast yet as his DCU Batman. That will be in Brave and the Bold, directed by Andy Muschietti. And I only put that on here because if you saw The Flash, it might be a number of reasons why you might think you already know who the main DCU Batman is. Because there's a few Batmen in that movie, as you see in the trailer. So, but he has come out and said nobody's been cast yet, and it's going to be a new person. So, I think that makes. I think it's obvious. It was obvious to me. If you listen to my opinion on the end of the Flash, it was obvious to me that they're going to go with somebody new. Apparently, some people needed that to be clarified. I don't know why, but here we are. So that's that. That's DC stuff. Again, I thought there was something else I was going to say regarding the Brave and the Bold thing. Oh,
yeah.
The Flash bombing hard at the box office, unfortunately, as we just talked about at length. Director of The Flash, Andy Muschietti, just last week announced as the director of Batman Brave and the Bold. Steve, both you and I know if this was a Star Wars movie, Andy Muschietti would be
Can't.
If The Flash was a Star Wars movie, Andy Muschietti would be fired, and Kathleen Kennedy would not let him continue on based on previous what happened to Colin Trevorrow in Episode 9, what happened to a million other people that she's worked with. It's not a Star Wars movie; it's a DCU movie. Do you think that Andy Muschietti stays on as director of Brave and the Bold?
Oh, that's a good prognostication, buddy.
I know. And I'm not even really looking for an answer.
No,
just
I'm
to
just
kind
trying
of
to think
bring
of how
up
to
that
frame
it's
it. 'Cause
possible,
it's like,
right?
if Gunn sees that as how he wants to portray it, then I would say yes. I mean, I think
True.
I think at least with Gunn and Safran, there's a vision there compared to arbitrary, like,
Agreed.
not arbitrary, but like generic studio politics. I think at least with those two in a leading role, there's some guidance to it, and it's
I agree.
less hair trigger.
Yeah, I don't think James Gunn seems like the kind of guy that would be reactionary like that. Now, his boss, David Zaslav, I can't necessarily say that about. So if the order comes from Zaslav, then all of a sudden James Gunn is in this position of being a filmmaker having to fire another filmmaker, which is yikes, rough. But
Now,
I
at
would
the same
think
time, though, Gunn's kind of playing with house money to push back against Zaslav.
True,
Like,
and
hey,
I think he will. I mean, I think that he would. He also seems like the kind of guy that would defend his choices, and fight for what fights for his vision. Because I think, I mean, I love The Flash, and I think Andy Muschietti did a great job with, by all accounts, scripts that they couldn't get right for years and years and years and years. He finally, out of all those pieces that came before him, was able to put a good movie together. If he has sole control from step one on Brave and the Bold, then I think it'll be even less messy, way less messy than The Flash was.
Yeah, The Flash.
Anyway.
Yeah, sometimes we keep coming back to The Flash. Like, sometimes I wonder if there was just too many hands in the pot, or there was a smattering of too many ideas that were kind of being tossed around. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we can go. Maybe in like a couple of weeks we can do just a Flash post-mortem episode or something.
Yeah, The Flash, a look back.
a 5-week retrospective.
Yeah, yeah. Got some comics news for you. Marvel has announced a Spider-Boy ongoing series. This is a character that I was unaware of till I read this article. From writer Dan Slott and artist Paco Medina, spinning out of the events of the Edge of Spiderverse story. Apparently this Spider-Boy is a kid named Bailey Briggs, who is from a universe where Spider-Man has a sidekick, and he is Spider-Man's sidekick. Dan Slott said, "Spider-Man isn't supposed to have a sidekick. That's just wrong on so many levels, and that is exactly why we're going to have so much fun with this. Both this character and his new title are going to break all the rules. Bailey Briggs is going to have over-the-top adventures in the Spider-Man corner of the Marvel Universe. He'll be facing off against a mix of both all-new villains and fan-favorite Spidey bad guys. The one thing we can promise you, whenever you pick up a copy of Spider-Boy, we are going to take the weirdest and wildest swings at every single story. Our goal is to get every reader to ask 2 questions. What in the hell did I just read? And when is the next one coming out?" Steve, have you read any of the Edge of Spider-Verse stuff?
I have not. I've heard decent
No,
things
neither
about it, but no. I barely have time to read the things that I am pulling.
that you want to pull, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm the same. Just we talked about recently, like as much as I love the Spider-Verse animated movies, when it comes to comics, I want Spider-Man to be just friendly neighborhood, stopping bank robbers and, occasionally somebody like a Green Goblin or a Doc Ock, but I don't need him going to space, and I don't need different multiverses in my Spider-Man, so I don't read the book, and I was unaware that there was a Spider-Boy character. That being said, I can see this as an excuse to do just a really fun, off-the-wall
Wasn't
kind of pitch, which seems like what he's talking about.
Wasn't there a Spider-Boy back in that weird Marvel DC crossover thing?
Yes, there was. It was. I was reminded of it when I read either this article. This article that I'm citing in Rundown here. I think it was Clark Kent's childhood friend Pete Ross that becomes Spider-Boy somehow in the Marvel DC crossover.
Well, this is a new one because he was made this year. April 23 was his debut, apparently. This Bailey Briggs
already has an ongoing series. Wild.
Yeah. It's a pretty quick turnaround.
I mean, was it just that popular, or are we going to see, a Spider-Boy animated series going up at Amazon?
I wonder
other
how that
Marvel
theme song would work.
What?
I just have the 60s theme song going through my head, but with Spider-Boy instead of
Spider-Boy. In other Marvel Comics news, there's a new Werewolf by Night one-shot coming this fall. An oversized one-shot from writer Derek Landy and artist Fran Galen. The one-shot sees Jack, what's the character's last name? Jack Russell, yeah. Why didn't I include the last name? And sees Jack Russell join forces with monster hunter Elsa Bloodstone, very similarly to what we see in the Disney Plus outstanding Halloween special, Werewolf by Night. The synopsis for the book says, in the shadows of the black and white night, Jack Russell races to halt the sacrifice of a young girl at the hands of monsters. Elsa Bloodstone, in all her colorful monster hunting glory, isn't far behind. But can they put their differences aside long enough to save the day? What would such a partnership even look like?
Probably
I'm down for this.
What we saw towards the end of the one-shot show they put together.
Yeah, they're announcing a one-shot clearly based on the success of the Halloween special and pretending that it has no connection to the Halloween special whatsoever. Like
where Elsa Bloodstone and Jack Russell coexisted.
Team up. Yeah.
Right.
Like, where else have you ever seen this kind of partnership? Well,
in live action, and it was really, really good.
Yeah. Oh, you mean in the only other time most people have ever seen or heard of either of these characters in the most high-profile streaming service and the most high-profile franchise that exists right now? That time. Yeah.
That one? Cool.
That's the one.
Yeah, weirdly, I was in Walgreens the other day, and
that is weird.
No, double ear infection for the kiddo. So not too weird.
Bummer.
Yikes. It wasn't affecting him whatsoever. He was just like, my ear sounds like I'm underwater. I'm like, okay, we should get this checked out. And then they found it in the other ear too. We're like, okay, cool. But I was in there going to grab his script, and they had the Walgreens exclusive Funko Pops on sale for like $4.
Because Funko Pop is rapidly losing money.
Yeah.
Going out of business because no one wants them anymore.
Yeah. The was Jubilee, Longshot, and then Elsa Bloodstone.
Ooh.
So
cool. And you got all three of them?
No.
Oh. Not a one?
Jubilee and Longshot, because I had to.
Oh, nice.
Cool. For $4 I was going to buy them. For $12 I was not going to buy them.
I'm surprised you didn't get all three. You're like, well, I might as well get Elsa.
I probably should have.
Yeah. This week in your local comic book store, Alien 3, not the movie, just a comic book, Alien issue number 3. Amazing Spider-Man 28, Brynmore number 1, Captain America: Symbol of Truth, number 14. Carnage reigns, Omega, number 1. Daredevil and Echo, number 2. Darkwing Duck, number 6. Deadpool, number 8. Dungeons and Dragons: Saturday Morning Adventures, number 4. Elvira in Monsterland, number 2. Exorcists Never Die, number 3. That is a very cool title for a book that I know nothing about. Ghost Rider, number 15. Grimm Fairy Tales, number 73. Hell to Pay, number 6. Local Man, number 5. The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, number 1. Great title for a book that, again, I know nothing about, but a title like that might make me pick it up. Predator, number 4. Eisner-nominated She-Hulk, number 14. Silk, number 2. Star Wars Darth Vader Black, White, and Red, number 3. I did not realize I missed number 2, and I'm very upset about that because I loved number 1.
There's
Star
still
Wars,
some on the shelf at our friendly local comic shop, Funky Town Comics and Vinyl.
Friendly neighborhood Funky Town. Awesome. I will pick it up. Star Wars Dr. Aphra, number 33. Star Wars The High Republic Adventures. Okay, the list that I read said that 6, 7, and 8 are all coming out.
So they're officially bringing it to a close, and I think they're just dumping them all early.
Wow, weird.
It's a funky one.
That is a funky one. Just keep putting them out weekly or
You would
monthly
think
or
so,
whatever.
and just finish them.
Even if you just did weekly, just like get them out, like dumping them.
Yeah.
Anyway, Storm, number 2. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin, Lost Years, number whatever. I forgot to write down. I think it was number 4.
4.
Thor, yeah, 4. Thor, number 35. Vampirella versus Superpowers, number 2. Vanish, number 8. And X-Men Before the Fall, Heralds of Apocalypse, number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. You pulling any of these, Steve? Or
Lost Ronin,
reading
Lost
anything in
Years.
particular? Yeah.
Yep.
Have you read those already? I know you read the main.
The 1 through or the first 2. I haven't read number 3 yet, but yeah.
Okay. Good.
Very
Awesome.
good. Continuation of the that 5-book arc.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal. So
I know. I got to read that someday.
yeah, I'll give it to you to put on the stack at one of these points.
Perfect. I don't know that any of these are on my pull list necessarily, besides the Darth Vader one.
Oh yeah, that too.
Because I liked quite a bit. Yeah. I did. I started reading this comic that I kept reading good reviews of. There's only 2 issues out. It's Ram V for DC is writing a series called The Vigil, and I believe it is his own creation. I do not think that these characters have existed previously. I could be wrong, but I think it's like he's creating just new characters in the DC universe, which is cool. And it seems to be about like a Black Ops superpowered team.
Nice.
It's kind of like the bird's eye view synopsis of it, but I really like it so far, so I would recommend that. And I think it's only 2 issues, and Funky Town had both of them, so I just grabbed them at the same time. So.
You said Ram V, and I realized I did the like dog thing of like, huh?
Yeah. Oh,
like, what are we paying attention to?
Yeah. I also finally started reading book 2 of this 3-book series that came out. I think it came out last year, or maybe part of this year. Superman Space Aged. It's like a kind of like retro telling of the first one was kind of like concerned with the formation of the Justice League and Superman coming to Earth, but it also part of it took place in a flashback to Pa Kent in World War II, and how it's like it takes place in the past, and so it's like historically linking the formation of the Justice League to real world events. And like Bruce Wayne in issue 1, Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor are in like an arms race to create tanks to sell to the government at the Vietnam War, and the government goes with Lex instead of Bruce, and so Bruce takes all of his equipment and just becomes Batman with it. But linking origins of these characters to historical events is really cool, and it's also a very good understanding of Superman, I think, at least in book 2. So shout out. I think you can get a collected, like I say book, but they're just like oversized issues, 1, 2, and 3, and they're all in a collection right now that you can pick up.
It's like a giant size style.
Yeah, nice hardcover. Yeah.
I don't know. Did I bust this out at any point on the prior podcasts?
I don't remember if you did on the podcast or if you just told me, because I think I've seen it before.
Kevin Eastman is now going to be doing a bunch of
Yeah.
different covers for Marvel. And his first one was Daredevil, which is fitting
course it
since
was.
that's what
You know
they...
what? I think you might have, because I remember you saying
Yeah.
how fitting it is that it's Daredevil. Yeah, yeah. Or maybe you just told me off before
Might
we
have.
recorded. I don't.
But
that's
was really excited about that. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Kevin
not-
Eastman being one of the two creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
For those of you. who
Kevin
don't know
Eastman,
the name.
Peter Laird. So
Yep.
looks like very classic Eastman style, and apparently
Yeah.
he's got a contract with Marvel for a bunch of new covers, which
Cool.
is kind of crazy. It seems like there's a lot of artists that are doing that now.
Yeah.
Apparently Scotty Young has got another exclusive with them for a while. John Tyler Christopher, who, as
Wow.
you know, I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to grab. He did a Miles variant for the Ultimate Fallout, or whatever the new, whatever the one they're launching, the new crossover that they're launching.
Ultimate Invasion.
Yeah, it might be Ultimate Invasion.
Yeah, that's the one that
Um,
just started, I think.
Yep. So they did a Miles crossover for that. That's the negative R variant, which looks phenomenal.
Nice.
So they're, Marvel seems to be realizing that alternate covers seem to be pushing the product. So
Yeah, I feel like they kind of thing goes in waves, where sometimes variant covers are like all the rage, and sometimes, I hear somebody like Jeff at Cloud City previously or whatever talk about like variant covers, and I can't. Oh, that is amazing. Showing me the Miles cover he was just describing. That is
it's not amazing. It's ultimate.
it's ultimate. Yeah, yeah,
Amazing would be Peter.
yeah. I love the lack of line between the background and like the parts of the costume. They're the same color. Which, by the way, I've been when I can, I've been starting each day by reading an issue of Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's Spider-Man.
Oh, that's
I
great.
got that collection.
Yep.
And I just like read one, and then I'm done, and I start work.
I should do that with that Claremont Collected that you gave me for the X-Men there.
Yeah,
that'd be great to just hit
great.
one issue and like, all right, here's my start to the day.
Right, especially when a lot of my day is spent trying to write comic books.
Yes, also.
I kind of look at it as like inspiration or whatever. But that there's a thing with Spider-Man that they do every once in a while that I love, which I didn't think happened until much, much later, like in the 90s, because that's when I was reading most of my Spider-Man comics. When like if he's in the dark, they will just draw the red parts of his costume and leave everything else black. So all the webbing on his costume and all like the stuff that's blue in the light is black and fades into the shadow that he's in. So there's no separation between like the darkness or the shadow and the sides of his costume. And he's only, you can see his gloves, parts of his arms, his head, his chest, and his boot and his legs. So your mind puts together where the rest of his legs are or whatever.
Yep.
But Steve Ditko's doing that in like issue 4 of Amazing Spider-Man. And it's amazing. It's so cool. I was like, oh my God, they're doing that thing that I love this early on.
Yep.
It was already like a staple of the character from so long ago. And it's just something that's continued. That's like how you draw Spider-Man in the dark. It's just great. I didn't realize it was like a rule established so early on, I guess.
There you go. Now you know.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. And then there was one thing that I was writing the other day where I felt like I needed some kind of like big like villainous over the top, you'll never get me, like that kind of like fist shaking kind of speech. And I was like, I'm gonna go open up that Dr. Octopus issue and see what he's yelling at Spider-Man, because there's a whole lot of that going on.
Yep.
Need some information. Yeah, it's a good like reference point.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, tangent after tangent, but we got 2 one-shots for you tonight. Steve, why don't you shout out that first one-shot?
Well, the Batman Arkham trilogy, some of you may know, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight, the 3 video games in the series, will apparently be coming to Nintendo Switch this fall, so you can take your Batman on the go.
Yes. These games have never been on any Nintendo thing ever. I
No.
believe just Xbox and PlayStation. So
Yeah, and
that's cool. I mean,
they're
Nintendo
great
Switch
games.
finally has the graphics to be able to handle games like that.
Right.
So makes sense they start showing up.
Yeah, a lot of fun to play.
They left out a lot of fun to play. Yes. But they left out I mean, it was like the bridge between the two. Arkham Origins. Arkham Origins
Oh yeah.
was like a prequel to Arkham Asylum. It was fine, but it's nowhere near the other 3 games. But
Right. I don't think I ever
anyway,
played City.
What's that?
I don't think I ever played City. Played Asylum.
Oh,
and Night.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, City was really good.
Nice.
Night has the biggest map.
Right.
So City's smaller to get around, but like it's like more detailed and the story is really, really so worth playing, I think, for the story alone.
Nice.
Last one shot for the night. We got a release date announced for Harley Quinn season 4, one of my favorite animated shows probably ever. Makes me laugh out loud every time I'm watching it. It will debut on July 27th, only on Max. And I'm very excited. I hope that, like I said about Titans and Doom Patrol, 4 seasons is a lot. I hope they keep making this show. I know James Gunn has said that he likes this show, so I hope he allows them to keep making this show after season 4. I'm glad that we got 4 seasons, though, I guess is what I'm saying. 4 seasons and an insane Valentine's Day special. This article also reminded us that the Kite Man spinoff of the Harley Quinn show is still in development. So definitely still putting some effort into DC animation, at least right now, currently at Max. And also that the first thing that we're going to see from James Gunn's DCU is also animated. The Creature Commandos show is going to be the first official DCU installment. And I'm not sure when it comes out, but they're already making it. So some cool things on the horizon for DC animation on HBO Max. And I'm pumped about Harley Quinn season 4. I love when they announce, like, you haven't heard anything about a show or a movie, and then the announcement's like, bam, it's coming out next month. I got you. You're like, oh, sweet. There's an announcement. I can be excited, and I don't even have to wait sometimes you get a teaser for a movie like a year, 2 years before it comes out. Like, oh, come on. Like that Wolverine game trailer we were talking about that we both love so much. And it's like, can we get something else? Can we get a detail about this game?
I think as soon as Spider-Man 2 comes out, they're immediately going to follow it up. Like November, we will see a trailer for Wolverine. Yeah.
It'd be cool if there was like some kind of hint in the Spider-Man game about Wolverine or something. Not that he would be in it, but be cool.
No, it's I do have a last minute one shot for you too.
Hit me.
We've alluded to it many, many times, but I believe this week was the first time it was actually spoken that Ahsoka will officially be season 5 of Rebels per Dave Filoni.
Oh yes. So, confirmed by Dave Filoni himself. Obvious to you and me, Steve, obvious to anyone that has seen the first 4 seasons. That trailer alone made it pretty clear.
Yep.
This is where we're going. That's exciting.
Oh yeah.
I also read something about Rosario Dawson playing coy about whether or not Hayden Christensen appears as Anakin in Ahsoka, assumedly as a Force ghost. Now, I remember thinking that was I thought that was confirmed, but apparently it was never actually confirmed.
I thought Hayden was confirmed. I don't know whether it was confirmed that he was as Anakin or Vader.
I thought he was too, but this new thing that I read was talking about it as if it was not, nobody knew at all. And she was like, oh, wouldn't that be cool? Well, you're playing coy, but.
Well, that's weird.
Anyway, I'm assuming he's going to be in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she wouldn't have to play coy. She would just say no. He's not it.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah, I'm sure. My guess is that it'll be Force Ghost Anakin.
Well, if you have any theories on how and why Hayden Christensen will appear in Rebels or Ahsoka, as it may be, feel free to let us know on the socials at the Multiverse Report, Multiverse Report, or Multiverse RPT on the dying platform that is Twitter. Beyond that, get a hold of us, the multiverse report at gmail.com. Check us out on the multiversereport.com. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you're consuming this. And yeah, that's about how you get a hold of us.
Yeah, that's all we got. So until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.